Welcome back. All right, so Wednesday used to be Stats Day, where I would go through stats, and those videos usually didn't get a lot of interest. So I'm going to change it up a bit. I'm going to bring back stats on Wednesdays, but with the difference being that we're going to talk about slow starts, fast starts today, one for each team. And the down arrow, the up arrow that you're seeing, that is in reference to the team itself and their expectations and how they've performed thus far. So, Anaheim, their fast start, Troy Terry, 6 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. Now, Anaheim doesn't have a lot of guys who perform really, really well. Terry's look good. Drysdale's on the slow side, no points yet in 6 games played. While Drysdale's a defenseman and he's young, I think, there was at least a point or two that was expected of him at this stage of the season. And I understand that it's early and this is a small sample size, but I thought it would be fun. Calgary. Nazem Kadri off to an amazing start. 6 games, 4 goals, 5 assists, 9 points. Everybody, myself included, said there's no way he's going to score like he did in Colorado, and we've been right. He's scoring more. The interesting part is Elias Lindholm, sorry. 6 games, 2 goals. That's it. So Huberdeau, who has been seen as having a tougher time adjusting to Calgary, apparently having a tougher time as well as Lindholm to adjusting to life without Tkachuk and without Gaudreau. So we'll see. I think he's got the talent to turn that around. It is just interesting since Calgary's off to such a good start. I almost put an up arrow next to them, but I predicted them to be top two. The Oilers are off to a bit of a slow start, comparatively speaking, with what was expected of them. But Ryan Nugent-Hopkins is not. 6 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. He's looked fantastic. Puljujarvi is off to a slow start with no points in 6 games, and just as worrying, he's a -5. Now, plus minus over a full season doesn't tell you a lot. I think plus minus over a smaller sample size like this is more telling, especially when your plus minus is out of line with the rest of your team. So either you have the tougher assignment, which I don't think is the case with Puljujarvi, or you're struggling defensively, which is probably the case. The LA Kings, as these you guys can tell, they're in divisions and in alphabetical order. The LA Kings, Velarde, 8 games, 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points. He has had a remarkable start to the season. He was very good last night against Tampa. I couldn't be prouder of Velarde and him coming back from these back issues that put his career in jeopardy at one point. Blake Lizotte is one that stands out with just the 1 goal so far in 8 games. Most of the LA players are right in line with where they would be expected to be. In terms of production, although with Doughty, his defensive numbers aren't necessarily where I think he'd want them to be, but he has 4 points in 8 games, so I couldn't put him on the board. San Jose, Nico Sturm, 9 games, 4 goals for him. And I only mention that because Sturm is on pace for, 30 goals with that? I don't think he's going to get there, so that's a pretty hot start for him. Timo Meier, ice cold for San Jose, just the 2 assists in 9 games. But as the announcers keep saying, he is generating opportunities. The offense will come. So I don't have a concern when it comes to Meier. I don't have a concern with a lot of guys on the board, to be honest, when it comes to the slow starts. But these slow starts do mean that if you're looking for career numbers, you're probably not going to get it from these players. It's tough to get back on that kind of pace. For Seattle, Jared McCann, who had a very good game last night, 8 games, 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points. He's had a remarkable start. He's on a 40-goal pace. And Yanni Gourde, just the 1 assist so far in 7 games. Of course, he missed 1 game on a personal issue. Gourde might just have other things going on, but it is a slow start by his standard. Vancouver, it was not easy. Because to me, Pettersson being point per game with 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in 7 games, it's not really unexpected, but there isn't really anybody in Vancouver who's overperforming. Oh, and there's a down arrow, because, sure, there was the debate about whether or not they were a playoff team, and I decided for the first time in this channel's history, yeah, I'll predict them for playoffs. I'm pretty sure I hadn't, although maybe I did in 2021 as well. Maybe it's me, right? But for the Canucks, this season has been an unmitigated disaster. Podkolzin is one I wanted to highlight, with just the 2 assists so far in 7 games. Now, certainly I'm not blaming Podkolzin for the team's slow start, but there was, more expected of this team in general. And I'm seeing comments about Kuzmenko, Podkolzin. I'm seeing basically comments about all Canucks. I figured Podkolzin was one that stood out. On the Vegas side, there isn't really a player that's way ahead, so I went with Stevenson. 8 games, 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points. This feels like it's sustainable. Chandler Stevenson every year just gets better for the Vegas Golden Knights. who seem to have a preponderance for picking up players that have long last names just to make it tougher for me to write their names all on the board when they score goals. I get it. But yeah, and then finding somebody who's off to a slow start wasn't easy. Vegas guys are scoring. It's to all four lines. So I went with Kessel. I apologize. NHL's Iron Man and all. 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points in 8 games. That was the only one I could really pull. I thought, well, maybe Nick Hague, and I thought, no, nobody expected Nick Hague to score a bunch of points yet, so I went with Kessel, and I apologize. But that just shows that they're off to a really good start. Moving off to the Central Division, Arizona, Gostisbehere. What is it with him in Arizona? In 6 games, he has 4 goals, 4 assists, 8 points. Ghost looks fantastic, and I'm sure that everybody's still going to be talking about what could they get if they trade Chychrun. What could they get if they trade Ghost? Ghost is healthy, and he's been producing for them for a year plus now. Barrett Hayden. This was supposed to be a bit of a breakout year, and instead he has no points in 6 games. So that's a tough one for him. For Chicago, and I have a red arrow next to them pointing up because they're doing well. Wasn't expected to be here, and Dickinson was not expected to be producing. In 4 games, he has 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Okay. On the slow side, again, much like with Vegas, I had a hard time finding a Blackhawk that's off to a slow start. So I went with Seth Jones, who has 3 assists in 6 games. And I admit it's a bit of a weak pick, but that tells you that the Blackhawks are off to a really good start this year. Taves, the offense isn't where it was, say, 5 years ago, but it's better than last year. Kane has had points in the last couple of games, so he's brought his points up. So I really couldn't put Kane on the board either. Colorado, I didn't feel like putting a down arrow there because I had talked about cup hangovers, and Colorado got off to a slow start last year as well. Nichushkin is not off to a slow start. In 7 games, 7 goals, 5 assists for 12 points. But Newhook is definitely off to a slow start. So with the departure of Kadri, that could have been, I'm going to say should have been Newhook's spot, and he should have been able to take that and run with it. I think he's got a lot of talent. But with no points in 7 games, that does not lock down the second line center spot. And I thought about putting Compher there too, because Compher's off to a slow start. Dallas, Robertson, 7 games, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. That line just drives all the offense. I've talked about Hintz. I've talked about Pavelski as well in recent days. So yeah, Robertson doesn't need training camp, doesn't need preseason. He just comes in and scores a point per game. He's a remarkable talent. Jamie Benn, however, a lot of money being paid to Ben, just the 3 assists in 7 games. And that contract does not get better if Ben's production continues to drop off as it has. Sagan has been better this year, I think, than last year so far. Ben has not. Minnesota, they're a bit of a down arrow here, although I think they're turning it around. Zuccarello, 6 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. Loves playing with Kaprizov. Absolutely loves it. I think it's the best I've seen him play in his entire career. Hartman is off to a slow start, comparatively speaking, with last season with just 2 assists in 6 games. Hartman should turn that around, but we'll see. Now, Nashville, it was tough to find a player who's off to a really good start, so I had to go with Niederreiter, even though he had those 3 goals in the first 2 games against San Jose. But overall, in 7 games, he has 4 goals, 1 assist, 5 points. So there's a fast start. Roman Josi just has 1 assist in 7 games. So after what was an amazing year last year from Josi, almost 100 points, and this year it's easily producing on a pace for like 12 or 13. We do expect that production to go up, but again, when you get off to that slow start, it makes it really tough to get back to the kind of numbers he was putting up last year. St. Louis, Tarasenko. It's a career year for him. 7 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. He's looked very good. Ryan O'Reilly's struggling. No points in 4 games, and he's a -4. So again, if you have a -1 average per game, that's not great. And for O'Reilly, who's known as a really good two-way forward and really good defensive forward, that number's concerning on a St. Louis team that's been quite good. So O'Reilly's going to have a chance to turn that around. They're playing, of course, against Edmonton tonight. We'll see if O'Reilly gets on the board. My guess is he's not going to stick with that 0 for long. He's in a career year as well. Winnipeg, Cole Perfetti. In 6 games, 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. He's been very good. Kyle Connor, a bit quiet compared to what was expected. 6 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. But in their last game, he was generating a lot of offense, just puck not going in for him at this point. As long as they're still generating chances, you don't have to worry. It's when the player's not generating chances that you should get worried. Now we go to the East. We look at Boston. Pastrnak, 7 games, 5 goals, 7 assists, 12 points. I don't expect him to stay on 135-point or 135 point pace. I think that's high, but that check line has been really, really good. And so we'll see, right? We'll see if he drags Krejci's numbers up as well. Zacha hasn't been the offensive dynamo that some may have predicted when he came over to Boston. I think that trade's worked out for both players well. Howell has been playing well for New Jersey, even though the puck's not been going in for him at the rate that I think he'd like either. And Craig Smith, I've talked about him. He's been a healthy scratch a couple of times. He just has the 2 assists in 5 games. He'll have a hot streak at some point this season. It's just a matter of when. Buffalo. So Buffalo, there's an up arrow next to Buffalo because Buffalo was not expected to be this good yet, and that's despite the loss last night against the Seattle Kraken. Dahlin, 6 games, 5 goals, 4 assists, 9 points. I've seen a lot of talk about Dahlin, comparing him to Bobby Orr in the comments, saying he's better than Makar in the comments, and all I can say is he's very good. He's off to a tremendous start to the season. We can pump the brakes a little bit on the Bobby Orr talk and the Cale Makar talk until we're more than 2.5 weeks into the season. I would say that. But I understand the excitement. Buffalo fans have waited a long time for this. Power's off to a good start too, although offensively the numbers aren't great. It doesn't matter because he's a solid all-around defenseman and it's his first year. Skinner, 2 assists so far in 6 games. So Jeff Skinner's record of a good year and then an off year offensively seems to be back. So he had a very good year offensively last year. I guess this is the year where the goals just don't come. On the Detroit side, Kubalik's been a fantastic ad, right? 6 games, 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points. Absolutely remarkable run for him with Detroit. He's driving the offense a lot of the time. Raymond has dropped back. He only has 2 assists in 6 games. It may be that dreaded sophomore slump. It does happen. Raymond's too talented to not get things going. Florida as a team, it feels like it's kind of slumping compared to last year, but the record's not bad. So I didn't put a down arrow next to Florida. Lustarinen's off to a very good start. In 7 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points. That's more than anybody expected for him. Reinhardt's off to a very slow start. After what was a career year for him last year, he just has the 1 assist in 7 games. He's around the net. He's getting opportunities. They're just being fired wide. So again, is he going to come out of this? Yes, but the longer this drought continues, the harder it's going to be for him to threaten his career highs. Montreal, Suzuki, very good start. 3 goals, 4 assists, 7 points in 7 games. He's also a +3. And it feels like Suzuki's becoming that player that I knew he could be years ago. Absolutely remarkable to watch him play, and he and Caulfield are really feeding off each other. Dodonov, real disappointment so far in Montreal. No points in 7 games. And some turnover issues and some other, it just feels like Dodonov. So for Vegas, they look smart at this stage in making the move to trade out Dodonov's cap hit. Because I don't think Dodonov would be producing a lot of points for Vegas right now either. Ottawa, and I've got an up arrow next to Ottawa because even though we expected Ottawa to be good, this homestand, absolutely remarkable run. And Brady Tkachuk, he's arrived. 6 games, 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points. When Brady Tkachuk was drafted, there was a debate about whether Matthew or Brady was the better offensive player and which one had the higher ceiling. Of course, Matthew Tkachuk hits this tremendous total last year, gets over 100 points. So Brady Tkachuk not as much in the spotlight, but yeah, he's been not that Matthew Tkachuk's off to a slow start with Florida, but Brady's been right there with him. Parker Kelly, no points so far in 6 games. I'm hoping that Parker Kelly gets a go. I like Kelly. I know he's a bottom 6 forward, but yeah, I just wanted to see a little more. Tampa Bay, Kucherov, 7 games, 1 goal, 9 assists, 10 points. The Tampa Bay Lightning, though, as a team, it just feels off. They're 3-4 to start the season, so the record matches what we've been watching on the ice. Victor Hedman, 5 assists in 7 games. Very respectable, very good, but not Hedman-like is the fact he's a -1. So Tampa Bay's actually a little off. Again, I'm not surprised. I talked about cup hangovers before the season started. And for Tampa, they've played so much hockey over the last 3 years. Yeah, there's got to be, exhaustion might be kicking in for some. But then there's the mental exhaustion too, right? Where you've gone from those really intense Stanley Cup final games. It's another October. It's another year. It could be harder to get up for those October games. Toronto's had a decent start, so I didn't have a down arrow there because even though their record's not fantastic, well, the loss to Vegas wasn't that bad. Tavares, unless you read the news and then you're like, oh, I guess they played awful. They played all right. It's Vegas. Vegas is very good. Tavares, 7 games, 3 goals, 5 assists, 8 points. And really with Toronto, offense is one of the issues right now. Again, if you go through media right now, they'll tell you the offense is just off. And it is, but they'll pick it up. They're too talented. They're in their primes. They'll get it together. Giordano, it's been an off start for him offensively when you look at his career, just the 1 assist in 7 games. But to his credit, he's a +5. So while the offense is not being driven by Giordano as it was when he was in Calgary and he was a Norris winner and all that, he is playing very well defensively to be a +5 on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Carolina, so we get to the Metro Division, and we get ready to finish this up with the last set of 8. Svechnikov, 6 games, 7 goals, 2 assists, 9 points. I don't think he keeps up that pace, but Svechnikov, I've always said, if he shoots enough, he could be a 50-goal scorer. Maybe this is the year. Kotkaniemi, slow start, and again, the contract's going to be talked about every time we talk about Kotkaniemi. 2 assists in 6 games. He did not get credited with an assist with the puck that went off his face to JT Miller the other night. But, hey, at least he stuck around. He stayed in the game. And we'll see if Kotkaniemi, maybe that fires him up. Maybe that's what he needed, right? Maybe it's an old 80s movie and that one hit in the face usually turns around a hero's life, right? Just in that time, that's their downbeat. And then you get the 80s music, the montage and all that. But, hey, a Kotkaniemi just needs a montage to cheer him up. All right, Columbus. I put a down arrow next to Columbus because it's been a disaster so far, mostly. Every time it looks like they're getting it together, they don't. And they didn't last night against Arizona either. Johnny Gaudreau, 8 games, 5 goals, 3 assists, 8 points. The good news, Johnny Gaudreau is on pace for 50 goals, a point per game. The bad news is there's not really a lot of good news to talk about when it comes to their goal scorers and point scorers. Boone Jenner, 8 games, 1 goal, 3 assists, 4 points. Just the 1 goal. Just the 4 points, and I think more was expected with Jenner. And so we'll see with Line A back if Jenner's numbers come up as well. So, New Jersey, how about them Devils? Jesper Bratt in 7 games, 3 goals, 9 assists, 12 points. I don't expect him to score at 130-point pace either, going back to the Pastrnak comment from earlier. But Bratt is playing fantastic. Finally, the points match the work ethic. Tatar, 7 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. Clearly frustrated with the puck not going in the net enough. He is still getting to the net, though. He's still getting opportunities. I do expect that to turn around, but this is the 2nd straight year where Tatar's numbers don't look fantastic. On the Islanders side of things, Anders Lee in 6 games has 4 goals, 3 assists for 7 points. And the Islanders have not had a great start to the season, but Lee has. Paul Mary, just the 1 assist in 6 games. So if you weren't a fan of them bringing back, well, a lot of the veteran players that got brought back, the production just hasn't bounced back the way that I think Lou figured that it would. So at this point, Lou's steadfast commitment to these players has not been rewarded. On the Rangers side, Panarin, remarkable start for him. 7 games, 4 goals, 8 assists, 12 points. Panarin might be able to score 130 points in a season. He might. Breadman might get it done. Lafreniere stands out as one that has not performed, hasn't taken that next step as I had thought and others thought. 7 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. The opportunities are there, yes. And I still think it gets there, but maybe the jump in points won't be as dramatic as some might have thought. Philadelphia, Konechny, after a couple of down years, he has in 6 games, 4 goals, 2 assists, 6 points. He's played well. Farabee stands out to me as one that the totals aren't quite where you would have expected. 6 games, 1 goal, 2 assists, 3 points. But an up arrow next to Philadelphia because as a team, I think they've performed quite well. I understand there might be concern following their loss against San Jose, but honestly, at this stage, their record's better than anybody expected. Pittsburgh, Jeff Carter, 7 games, 2 goals, 4 assists, 6 points. Stands out because Carter at almost a point per game at this stage in his career is fantastic. Pittsburgh, a couple of setbacks in Alberta. The good news for them, they got the Canucks next. So it'll turn around for them is what I'm saying. Brock McGinn, because I couldn't find a Pittsburgh player that I said, well, that's a really bad start. So I went with McGinn with just the 1 goal in 7 games. I know he's a bottom 6 forward. It just shows how well Pittsburgh's scoring that I couldn't find anybody that I didn't think was producing as well as they should. I thought about just as a joke putting up Dumoulin because Dumoulin's not an offensive player, but yeah. Anyways, I went with McGinn, who I know also is not an offensive player. And last but not least, the Washington Capitals. Dylan Strome, in 7 games, 1 goal, 5 assists, 6 points. Really strong play from him offensively, and he's stepping into Backstrom's shoes well so far. Ovechkin, a little bit on the slow side, and it's hard to find a Capitals on the slow side, but there's something with Ovechkin that's different. 7 games, 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, which is good. The -7 is not. So his -7 and Dylan Strome's -5 are worse than everybody else on the team. And so that's kind of where, over a period of this short of a period of time, the plus-minus can kind of tell you who's off to a rough start. Being a -1 on average per game, as I said previously in this video, not what you're looking for. So Ovi, who's never been known as a great defensive forward, he's going to be wanting to turn that plus-minus around at least a little. And the goal scoring will be there. I still expect at least 30, 35 goals from him. I still think it's just a matter of time before he catches Gretz. But anyways, it's been a bit of a slow start for him on a couple of fronts. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below as always. And it's not perfect because there are some teams that it was hard to find somebody off to a really surprising good start, and some teams that it was hard to find somebody off to a really surprising poor start. I did my best. Let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.